All right, today we're talking about high intent keywords. I've got Matt here with me. He's on our SEO squad. Just want to look at the question. Business and marketing teams are constantly trying to achieve the most out of their marketing budgets and have their marketing programs work hard for the business. So we need to assess where we're spending dollars and the strategy that we use to employ our keywords. So high intent keywords, that's a specific section or segment of what we're going after for marketing. So we want to talk about what is this and why is it important. When we're talking about high intent keywords, we're talking about people who are in the market for your services. So they've already gone through some educational, or they're ready to buy your services or products. They're ready to choose a solution that they're going to go with. And when we're looking at that, we want to always be asking the question, are visitors of your site taking the actions or using the intention that you want them to use? Of course, it depends on the goals, interactions you want them to take. And so when we're looking at that, we want to think about, a lot of people spend a lot of dollars on this and honestly just waste a lot of dollars. And the return isn't always there, right? So we just want to make sure we take the time to evaluate and optimize toward the right strategy. So I've got Matt with us. He's going to tell us a little bit more about the steps that we go through when we're considering high intent keywords. Matt?
Thanks, Scott. So just kind of jumping right in, we've identified a few different steps to go through when figuring out what do we want to optimize for? What are these high intent terms and what are some additional topics? And a nice starting point, and this is even for sometimes just your general SEO, but taking a look and doing some research with different tools. And some of these tools include Google Keyword Planner. They could be SEMrush. But what you're generally looking for here is you can take your website and the products that you are looking to sell, and right before people are making those decisions, well, what are they typing in? What are some of those search terms? And Google Keyword Planner, SEMrush will help you identify what some of these terms can be. So you're plugging in your website, you're looking at some of your competitors' websites, and what if you're looking at a competitor's website, look at the pages that are generating traffic. Which keywords are those pages ranking for? That will give you a little bit of insight out of the gate into what some of these search terms can be. Take a look in Keyword Planner. See which terms maybe have a higher cost per click. Generally speaking, those will be a little bit more of a high intent term. Then once you start to get a feel for what some of these keywords and terms will look like, do some manual searches. Go onto Google, type in some of these keywords, and get an understanding for what the layout looks like. What is Google showing? What are the different websites? Are they showing more paid? Are they showing the organic? Is there structured data? That'll start to also give you a little bit of feel for what Google is displaying in their search results for these different search terms. Are they primarily blogs? Are they different questions? This again starts to give you a little bit to work through as you're determining what it is out of the gate that you want to rank as far as these high intent terms are concerned.
So when we're looking at these terms too, so we've mentioned SEMrush and Google Keyword Planner, which are specific tools that we use. Are there a few things that we need to be looking at as far as understanding competitiveness? I'm thinking of like average CPC. When we're looking at Keyword Planner or SEMrush, we can see if these tools essentially indicate if people are paying money for them, spending money toward them, which I might be jumping ahead. I don't know if there's more you want to talk here about commercial versus informational products, services, solutions, but understanding like the cost that people are already associating with that, knowing that these are not accurate, to a T, but they're general estimates, kind of directional for us to understand, if terms are competitive. So I think the concept of looking at competitiveness of specific terms that we deem valuable, and by way of looking at the cost per click, based on these tools that we're using, as well as monthly search volume, how much volume these terms are receiving, how many people are typing in these terms. And then when we go into Google, understanding what the lay of the land looks like. So there's those two components. There's the component of what are the keywords themselves, competitiveness, volume, the relationship that they have to our products and services, and then what Google shows us in relationship to how they understand this conversation or these intent what is the intent of the keywords and the way Google displays them Because, for example, in our industry, when we deal with industrials, we see a lot of medical that shows up as well in certain categories, depending on what we're trying to be found for. So when we say high intent, we say which ones are really going to lead to the intentions that we want. And in the case of an industrial solution or industrial client, where we're seeing medical results, we have to really think through what are the right terms to be targeting. So anything else to add on that first part?
Yeah, I do think it's helpful to mention, and you just alluded to it, the different types of keyword intent. And there are keywords that are generally associated right out of the gate. So you have your informational type of intent, which is gathering information. So you're looking for answers, more generic keywords. That could be who, what, where, when, how, why. Then you have more commercial. And this is where you start to get into the high intent searches. And this is your investigation. So you're ready to make the decision purchasing something, but maybe you need that last comparison or best or review. And those are your more commercial types of intent. Transactional is the completing of an action or purchase, such as buy, download, register. And then there is a fourth piece of intent, which isn't necessarily for this topic of conversation, but is the navigational intent. So you're a direct website URL, a specific website. So once you figure out what piece of intent for our high intent, commercial, transactional, that will also give you a little bit to start with. These are the types of search terms. And then another thing that you had mentioned, Scott, is once you start to get a list of your general terms from one of these third-party sites, such as SEMrush or Google Keyword Planner, there are other sites out there that you can use where you can plug in a certain keyword and then it'll give you similar keywords or like-minded searches. But another important thing to always pay attention to are these long-tailed key phrases. And in your high intent terms, you will end up including more of your longer tailed key phrases. Now, these might not have as much search volume. So it's not always that we're looking at the number of search volume compared to a specific keyword. But if this is getting somebody to the finish line of purchasing a product, it may be a long-tailed keyword or key phrase, doesn't have a lot of search volume, but is a high quality type of search term because you may have a higher quality lead at the end of the day. Somebody doing that search is going to get them across the finish line. So we don't always want to look for the most popular search terms. You may want to look at some of those longer tail key phrases, which again will help us with these high intent terms.
That's good. And I also, when I start talking about high intent keywords, I have to go back to the questions that we're actually trying to answer, because I want to bring it back to what is the pain point that the customer or prospective buyer is really having? What is the pain that they're having? And so when we think of keywords, even we can think of here's all these keywords, but how do these keywords relate to the questions people are asking? And so I want to focus on keywords here, but we're also trying to remember that, hey, keywords don't live in a silo. You have to think about what's the customer's problem? What are the keywords pointing us to, which is what are those pain points that we're trying to understand and relieve with our products and solutions? So that's how I would, capture this. And so, how well do you know that? How well does a client know that? A lot of times it's a measure of like actually inserting the keywords we think, making sure we have the right interactions, right conversions to be able to measure performance and to say, was this a correct assessment of the customer? But there's a lot of work at the beginning that can be done in order to know what exactly are our customers' pain points and making sure that we assess them well. And then also, what are those terms that are relevant in relationship to the pain points that people have? So I think that's really good. Is there anything else? I think we need to go now into like how we activate some of this for SEO and then maybe for PPC. Does that sound good?
Yeah,
cool.
That sounds good. Yeah, we can start with SEO. And I think, again, you've done your research, got a good game plan. We know which terms we're going after. We have our short and our long-tailed key phrases. Now we have to take the next step in actually optimizing and then eventually monetizing your content. And as far as the optimizations for SEO go, out of the gate, it will be similar to your traditional SEO in the sense of your on-site optimization, your off-site optimizations. For this, though, it is a little bit of a separate mindset. And Scott, something you mentioned earlier, when people are coming to the site, what is that pain? What is bringing them there? So you may have to work within your content why this product is better than maybe another product, or what is going to bring somebody to actually go through and complete that funnel process of the purchase. So more content heavy in describing why this is the best, or if there is a review or a blog post on the differences between certain products. This is really what's going to help as far as the on-site optimizations are concerned. You have your traditional title, meta, H1s, your schema markup, the internal links. You have your traditional off-site SEO that is also helping, your link building, social media, citation building. And then once you start to have your website in a good spot, that's where then you can start to take that content and actually use it elsewhere and monetize it, such as blogs, webinars, guides, maybe even a consulting or training program on what makes your product the best. Are we doing retargeting or conversion marketing at the end of the day? Do we have an email list? Are we sending out quarterly emails? This is a way to not just have the content within your website so that if a user gets there, but how are we attacking back? How are we getting more people coming back to that website and then hopefully ending up making that purchase at the end of the day? So between the on-site, the off-site, and then monetizing that content, that should give you a pretty solid game plan. And Scott, I just want to also view if there's anything that you think I missed on the SEO piece.
No, I mean, I think that's good. I mean, we're talking about high intent keywords. Where do we utilize those? And obviously SEO is a much more complex application where you could really hit a lot of different levels. I think this is a good starting point where we can say, hey, let's capture those primary elements, and we want to relate them back to that full user experience that we're trying to bring in customers with, thinking through what we want them to see and when we want them to see it, and actually guiding the user. And I think with high intent keywords, we categorize terms relative to the content that's on the page. And there's definitely some SEO tactics that are helpful. I can go into PPC a little bit if you want me to end it up on that. So I made a few little notes, and I think when we talk about PPC, we have to think about the approach, because you have there's the business approach, the business strategy, or the digital marketing strategy, and there's the actual approach of how you apply it into each channel. And so when we talk about Google paid search as a channel, or Bing or whatever platform you're using as far as paid search goes, it's a search engine you're trying to run paid ads in, or you're trying to get found organically. We need to remember that there's two ways to do, like there's different ways to do it. Where for paid, it's going to be you've got a lot more competitiveness. You have a lot more. You can change this approach on a dime. So if you want to change it, you can move it really quickly. Whereas SEO, it takes time to make changes for SEO. So that's where having a full strategy, understanding the long game for your approach is really important. And that's how we would kind of start to break these up and say, hey, is SEO, is this keyword, a high intent keyword, an element that really focuses primarily on the content oriented SEO element, or do we want to go after paid dollars for this as well? We could do one or the other, or we could do both, depending on the need of the business, and there's elements that go into that. But ultimately, when we're talking about PPC, we want to understand what's the competitiveness of this term, of the high intent keyword. Are there people that are really trying to spend money to get conversions? Like if you're a law firm, I've seen before where the cost per click is up to $50, $80, $100, even more per click, because the high intentness of that keyword is so much stronger versus, obviously an industrial term might not be as high per click as far as competitiveness. And then how many competitors are actually trying to run ads for those terms? That's where competitive research will help, but also understanding keyword research in the tools that have been mentioned. What's cost worthy? For example, are we willing to spend a lot of money on a specific term to get them in the door, to engage them in other products and services, or what's the cost per click of that term? So it's kind of similar in that they're cost related, but we're looking more is it cost worthy to our business to run this term, and how much do we want to show up? Do we want to show up as much as we possibly can when people are searching for it? If there's more monthly search volume, like thousands and thousands of searches a month, it will start getting more costly, especially if we're saying the cost is going to be $10 per click versus something that's $2 per click or less. the costs can get extensive. So thinking through the competitiveness, the cost worthiness of this specific high intent keyword, does it result in conversions and people that want to buy? Third is just awareness. Some content is good getting organic visibility, and that's enough, but do you want to pay for it? And there's a lot of questions people are asking that are higher level that still have intent, that can be you can pay for if you really want to get found for. And again, it's probably going to be weighed based on the competitiveness, cost worthiness of these terms as well. Does it lead to the right types of questions? I've seen it before, like in real estate market, where it's not always going to lead, like it's still high intent. Like people are asking questions about 2-bedroom versus 3-bedroom apartment complexes, like what the differences are. They may not be quite ready to purchase, but they're exploring and they're getting close. So those are the types of things you want to consider. When are those terms? They're still relevant for us to really drive awareness and pay for those. And then flexibility, just knowing what I said, like SEO, it's like moving a ship. You turn the ship and you got to actually put all the gears and all the levers in place to make sure the ship turns all the way to the other side. And then we're going to take a long time to go this direction. We're not talking a small ship. We're talking about a huge ship, right? Big ship that takes a lot of work to get it to move in a certain direction. Versus, let's give the analogy of like PPC for like shooting a gun. You can shoot a gun. You can shoot as many bullets as you want. You can change the bullet. You can move in this direction, that direction as quickly as you want. You can't really change the bullet, but you can move the bullet quicker, faster, and move it around, right? So we want to think about with PPC or paid search in particular, there's more flexibility. You need to consider the transactional needs compared to SEO, and you can get more targeted to high intent to make sure that you're hitting your quarterly goals in particular and moving quickly on the terms. So really a good strategy in starting out and in closing, I think, is identify those keywords. Which ones are you ready to put money toward right now and today? You start spending toward those, learning what's going on in your paid approach while we're working on the SEO strategy to consider the high intent keywords, making sure that they're full throughout our website and the user experience flows well. I think we've covered a pretty good bit. So circling back around, we are talking about high intent keywords, how to maximize our investment and strategy. And this is how we would go about it. Is that right, Matt? Anything else we'd use to go about it?
No, I just think, towards the end when we were talking about the paid search and SEO, it's short term and then more of your kind of medium to long. And I think SEO, paid search, that's something we can inject and implement very soon. And where SEO is, again, kind of as Scott's analogy, there's a lot of different things in motion in order to make that fully run. And starting to identify the terms, figuring out your game plan, what you need to execute on immediately versus maybe something that you can kind of slow play out a little bit. That'll help you determine what's in paid versus what will go towards SEO.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining me, Matt, for the
Absolutely.
conversation. And let's do it again.
Sounds good. Thanks, Scott.
See you later.